This is a presentation of BSRN, Box Studios Radio Network. The Power Play Post Show is on the air, covering minor league hockey since 2003, and now covering the Binghamton Black Bears with news, reactions, and in-depth interviews only heard here. And now from the Box Studios in Kirkwood, New York, here is your host of the Power Play Post Show, Bob Howard.
And hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Power Play Post Show. This is the show for October 28th. 2024. This is season 14, episode number 15, and episode number 454 in the long-running podcast that is the Power Play Post Show. Hello, everyone. Yes, indeed, I am Bob Howard. Thank you very much for joining me here on a Monday evening as we talk about last weekend's games. And why are we a day late? Well, apparently, at some point in the last 5 or 6 days, I got your normal common cold. That's right. I've been tested for everything else, and everything else came up negative. So the only factor here is the regular common cold. And I'm actually kind of happy that I got the common cold for once instead of something else. So a day late, but not a dollar short, because there's some important stuff to talk about here from this past weekend's games. And I definitely want to make sure that we do that. Plus, we'll have more on rookie defenseman Nicolas Poirier in our 6 More Questions segment. The Binghamton Black Bears did play 2 games this past weekend. Again, one on the road on Friday, and then again, one at home on Saturday. And it seems to be that's the first 4 weeks of the season will be like that, as they will continue that trend this upcoming weekend as they play, I believe, in Hudson Valley, and then home again on Saturday, November 2nd, if I am getting my dates correct, which I think I am. If my voice sounds a little bit different, again, still recovering from the cold. I did not attend the game on Saturday. As I said in my post to everybody, I didn't really want to go in and affect anybody or get anybody infected with anything that I had. So I stayed home, watched it like it was a road game. So here we are, and let's get right into this. The Power Play Post Show is on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Cast, YouTube, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. Just search Power Play Post Show on whichever platform you listen to your podcast, and please subscribe. Please join the Power Play Post Show Facebook group. Just go to Facebook and search for Power Play Post Show. Check out binghamtonhockey.net for all your Binghamton hockey information and curiosity. And on this edition of the Power Play Post Show, not only will we talk about last weekend's games, but we'll have 6 more questions with rookie defenseman Nicolas Poirier. So let's get right into this. Friday in Danbury, the Black Bears scored their first OT win of the season, defeating the Hat Tricks 3-2 in overtime. Jamie Bissell, returning to the Black Bears this past weekend, scored his first goal of the season with the Black Bears up on the man advantage at the 2:55 mark of the first period. With Dan Stone in the penalty box, and Dan Stone will be a theme of this episode, for delay of game, the Hat Tricks kept their pressure on the Black Bears netminder Connor McAnanima as Chase Harwell scored the Hat Tricks game-tying goal with on the man advantage. The Black Bears on the power play after Chase Harwell's high sticking call gave up 2 plays where the Hat Tricks had a 2-on-1 shorthanded chance. They had 2 of these. And they scored on one of them as Corey Anderson goal, giving the Hat Tricks a 2-1 lead at the 11:24 mark, I believe that of the second period. With a 5-on-3 advantage, the Black Bears, Gavin Yates scores up 2 men up, man advantage to tie the game at 2 goals apiece. With the Hat Tricks, Jacob Ratcliffe in the penalty box in overtime for hooking, Cameron Clark scored a power play game-winning overtime goal at the 3:03 mark into overtime period, giving the Black Bears a 3-2 victory in Danbury. Okay. Now, the first 5 minutes of the first period was all Danbury except for the 12 seconds it took for Jamie Bissell to score on the Chase Harwell charging penalty. the Black Bears looked better in the last 12 minutes of the period compared to the first 8 minutes of the period. I really do think they had to get their feet, going, their legs going underneath them. Black Bears were 1 for 2 on the power play in the first period. The hat tricks were 1 for 2 as well on their man-up advantages in the first period. Colin McCollum, the Black Bears had 23 seconds of power play time to go into the second period. Connor McCollum had a big save in the remaining seconds on Sirota, who was alone and hesitated for a second before sending a shot at the hat trick's netminder. Now that was in the first period when they had really had a chance to honestly get up on Danbury. But Sirota, when you saw the play come over to him, he was all alone, and he just hesitated for about a half a second, maybe a full second, and it was enough time for McCollum to get his, positioning right. So when Sirota took the shot, he was able to make the save. Now in the second period, Cameron Clark had a great chance as he came out behind the goal line and took a shot that got past McCollum, but hit the post and came out at the 3:19 mark of the second period. So that's 2 chances right there between Sirota's chance and Cameron Clark. And let me tell you right now, they had a lot of shots on goal on Connor McCollum. Connor McCollum stood on his head for the Danbury hat tricks multiple times in this game. Now, this is where 2 of the really good defensemen in this league both got injured. Xavier Abdullah, shortly after the Clark chance, was seen on the ice after a collision and needed assistance off the ice. He did not come back in this game. Dan Stone seemed to be absent from the game as well. Didn't really see what happened. Both teams are down to 5 dressed defensemen, going from probably early second period throughout the rest of the game. During the Black Bears' power play opportunities in the middle of the period, the hat tricks had 2 2-on-1 shorthanded chances. Anderson scored on that first chance. That was the Corey Anderson goal. There was 2 chances there. In the third period, Dan Stone was seen limping into the stands at the beginning of the third period. Emerson Emery, who started the game as the 10th forward, moved to defense while Stone was out to help out the team. As the Black Bears go on a 5-on-3, the Black Bears take a timeout at the 8:12 mark of the third period. Now, to me, this was a great move by Coach Sherwood because it really kind of slowed things down, allowed them to come up with some plays, and kind of dictate the pace of what was going on in the game. Bissell and Henning dropped the gloves with 3:57 left to go in regulation. I thought this was pretty interesting, and I wrote it down as a note because realistically, you don't see the Black Bears kind of agree to a fight in the last 5 minutes of any period unless something specific has happened. And so it was very interesting. I thought it was a good fight. I don't think necessarily Bissell won the fight, but I don't think that mattered in this particular incident as well. With no more scoring in the third period, the Black Bears and the Hat Tricks go to OT. The Black Bears outshot the Hat Tricks in OT 6-0. The Black Bears strike first with the win in the 11 meetings between the 2 rivals. Okay. Let's see here. So I have to say this was an interesting first game for the Black Bears. Just in the sense of playing against the Danbury Hat Tricks, because we've seen in the past where the Danbury Hat Tricks and the Black Bears a lot of times can get very feisty. There's fights and there's just things that happen. This wasn't your typical game. It seemed like they played some gritty hockey against the Hat Tricks and the Hat Tricks against them, but nothing was really too overboard like we've seen in years past. Even last year at the beginning of the season and through the middle of the season, these two teams could get really feisty. I really do think that this is the influence of Johnny Ruiz and him being in charge of this team. I don't think this team is the same team we've seen 2 or 3 years ago where they were out there bullying everybody out there. I really do believe that Johnny Ruiz has taken this team into a different direction. Now, Will this work for them? Will their fans be happy with that? Not really sure. But either way, it was a game where the Binghamton Black Bears and their skill was able to shine, okay? And it's no surprise to me that Cameron Clark came out with that game time, overtime winning goal. You know, they were on the power play. It was overtime. This is the type of goals that I think we're going to see from him, right? He's not going to necessarily score a goal every single game. He's not going to necessarily have 2 or 3 goals in a game. What he's going to provide you is the heart and soul kind of goal, the clutch goal that is going to get you a win. That's one of the things we need to look out throughout the rest of the season with Cameron Clark and the way he plays the game. Okay, so before we get to the second game, let's go in and let's listen to the 6 more questions with our friend Nicolas Poirier, rookie defenseman for the Binghamton Black Bears. So we'll be right back right after this with 6 more questions with Nicolas Poirier. We'll be right back right after this, right here on the Power Play Post Show.
You're listening to the Power Play Post Show. Here is another Power Play Post Show interview exclusive with Bob Howard.
And welcome back to the Power Play Post Show. This is 6 more questions with Nick Poirier. Nick, are you ready for this?
Yep.
All right.
Ready to go.
Perfect. All right. Who is the greatest influence in your hockey playing career?
Ooh, I would say my whole family. They've always supported me throughout the years from youth hockey to here. So I definitely have a big thank you to say to them. So I would say my whole family.
You know what's funny is I've talked to so many hockey players in 20 years of being able to do this show, and more times than not, the family is the reason why the players even got to where they got, because of the moms driving them to practices and the dad going on the travel games with them or something to that effect. Family is so huge when it comes to hockey.
It's a huge part. I've been just absolutely blessed to have them. Like you said, just the driving and showing up. They've done more than they needed to, and they were always there for me no matter what. I mean, every week at practice, they were there just watching, supporting. No matter what, they made the time to show up, and all the expensive equipment and hotels and traveling. They never had a doubt. They always loved it, so definitely blessed to have them do that for me.
Definitely one of the most expensive sports to play as a kid. All right, number 2. Name one pregame ritual that you have to do before every game.
That's a good question. Well, since I've been here, I guess to make it more around Binghamton, I like to go down in the morning and have a nice walk alongside the water here. We got pretty nice, I don't know if it's a lake or a river or whatever, but right behind the house. So I like to go on a nice walk, kind of get some fresh air, get the legs moving, and then I have the same exact meal before every game day from Core Life, which is right next to the lake. But Greek chicken bowl.
Oh, it's a rice chicken bowl?
Yeah, it's like a Greek chicken and rice bowl or something.
Gotcha. So walk beforehand, and then you pretty much eat the same meal before each game.
Yeah, and then
cool.
I usually kind of stick to. I don't go crazy on the pregame stuff, but I usually stick to the same stuff, kind of stretch out and do my thing.
Gotcha. Very cool. All right, number 3, vacation destination. Are you a beach guy, camping, or a staycation? Or you stay home?
Ooh, I guess my whole life I've been a beach guy, but recently, so my girlfriend's from Alaska.
Oh.
Who I met at Plymouth as well. She went to school there, so
wow.
I guess camping is turning into a big thing. It's probably one of the prettiest places in the world. I was lucky enough to see it the past 2 summers, so I would say a little bit of both.
So the past few summers, you've been able to go up to Alaska, and it's...
Yeah, I was able to visit her family there. It's an amazing place to see.
If I say I'm jealous, don't be mad at me. That's pretty awesome.
No, everyone I say that tells me to, especially at my age. Usually it's kind of a retirement thing or a big once-in-a-lifetime thing, so I'm definitely lucky.
And it's funny, too, because you're from just outside of Montreal, and you talked about, there's a lot of city, a lot of buildings, but literally the majority of Canada is the wilderness, like Alaska. And
once you get more towards BC and stuff, and kind of where Scott is from, definitely gets a little bit wilder.
Yeah, absolutely. Number 4, outside of hockey, and I know the answer to this because we kind of talked about this on Thursday's podcast, but outside of hockey, MLB, NBA, NFL, or MLS, or even the PGA?
Ooh, I might. I know you think I'm going to say
MLB.
Yeah, but I might have to say PGA on that one.
Wow. Okay, so
if I can throw in the next one, I would say UFC over everything.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So
I'm a big fan of UFC.
Well, that kind of makes sense. That does make sense and everything. Yeah. So, PGA, a really big PGA fan. Now, do you have a favorite golfer right now?
I guess I don't know if I have one right now. No.
Gotcha. Well, when we talked about the MLB, you said that you didn't really have you just love watching the sport more so than any one particular team. So.
Yeah, exactly. That's with most sports, except for hockey. I kind of just enjoy watching. I don't really have specific teams or anything.
Well, the World Series has begun, but I got to ask you, what do you think? Shohei Ohtani and the Dodgers or Aaron Judge and the Yankees?
I honestly wouldn't know. I was cheering for Detroit because I know
Blake Tosto.
Yeah, we were watching it, and I know Servone was watching it as well and kind of cheering them on. But I guess now I don't really have a pick now that they're gone.
You just want a 7-game series and really, honestly, good baseball.
Yeah.
Okay, so in the UFC, do you have a favorite fighter there?
There's a lot. There's definitely a lot. I guess.
Those guys are tough, though. Those guys are.
I guess I would have to say my favorite guy is probably Justin Gaethje. I know he had a big loss recently, but he's still one of my favorite guys. So.
Nice. All right, number 5. If you were picking a movie, would it be a comedy, a drama, sci-fi, romantic, or horror?
I'm a big fan of comedy for sure. That's mostly what I watch.
Okay. Any particular one that you liked a lot recently?
Yeah, one of my favorite ones, I actually watched it the other day, is, there's 2, but the Anchorman movies.
Oh, they're hilarious, yeah.
Big fan of those, yeah.
Yeah. I like anything that's broadcasting that's funny, so I'm good with that. No, that's really good. All right, number 6, the most important question of them all, okay? A zombie apocalypse has broken out, and you're trapped in a hockey arena, right? So big arena, hockey, the ice is probably melting because the power's out, but that's okay. Who is the one person, dead or alive, fictional or non-fictional, that you would want to have in the arena with you?
Dead or alive?
Yeah. It could be anybody. And fictional or
just
non-fictional.
One person?
Just one.
Just one.
I
guess I'd have to say something that flies, because I could, stay in the air and not get eaten by the zombies, I guess.
All right, so who's flying for you?
I don't know, Superman maybe?
I like it. Hey, it works. It works. I think last week we got Iron Man or Tony Stark was the so that's who that's which is pretty cool. So all right, so far we've gotten 2 sci-fi non and 2 PGAs. So it's interesting.
There we go.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah, I know the guys like the golf for sure. I know that.
Yeah, well, I mean, listen, I think hockey and golf have gone hand-to-hand together, which is a hilarious type of scenario if you think about it, right? Because whenever a team loses out of the playoffs, what do they say? They're going golfing now, right? Or they're going golfing early. Yeah. And we make it sound so negative, but, the guys are probably thinking, hey, I get to go hit the course now,
Yeah, it's a big thing in the off-season, especially just you're trying to keep the compete there and have something to look forward to every week. So,
and
golf's definitely.
Have you played Ely Club already? Ely Golf Course?
We just went today as well, but I've been there. Yeah, we just went today as well.
Gotcha. I've been trying to get the guys to go up to my home course, which is in Nichols, New York, called Tioga Country Club. It is the best course in the southern tier area. I know we have the PGA come in, and they used to play in Endicott at Enjoy, which is a great course. But the course up in Nichols, New York, which is where the casino is, just is so well put together. A couple of the double dog legs, and the opening one is just, you got to go over a lake on the opening hole, which just throws everybody off, and there's some woods off to the right, and I have a few clubs that are actually somewhere in a tree on that first hole, but that was my home course during high school, and loved it. Either way, Nick, thank you very much for answering 6 more questions with us. We really appreciate it.
Well, thank you.
And we'll be right back right after this, right here on the Power Play Post Show.
If you're a Binghamton hockey fan, then you need to check out binghamtonhockey.net for all your news, stats, information, the Binghamton Hockey Hall of Fame, top 10 lists, profiles, and so much more. That's binghamtonhockey.net. You're listening to the Power Play Post Show.
All right, and welcome back, everybody, to the Power Play Post Show. Let's go right into the Saturday game, okay? So the Binghamton Black Bears then followed up that OT winner with another, defeating the Port Huron Prowlers 5-4, 2 minutes into overtime on Saturday night in front of the home crowd. The Black Bears, in the first period, the Black Bears got on the score sheet first with Austin Thompson's 5th goal of the season, just 1:51 into the first period. With both Cameron Clark and Jesse Anderson in the penalty box, the Prowlers' Alex Johnson scored a 5-on-3 power play goal to tie the game up at the 11:27 mark of the first period. And that was pretty much the scoring in the first, going into the second period. After a bench minor was assessed to Black Bears, to the Black Bears, I believe that was Coach Sherwood, who had some words probably with the referees, wasn't happy with something. He was assessed a bench minor. Dan Charand scored the Prowlers' second power play goal, just 3:49 into the second period, giving the Prowlers a 2-1 lead. The Black Bears tie up the game with the teams were working on a 4-on-4 after Cameron Clark wraparound goal at the 2:55 mark. His second goal of the weekend, left to go with the middle period, just to tie this game at 2 goals apiece. With Nick Stuckless in the box for cross-checking, the Prowlers got their third power play goal off the stick of Lucas Lansley, putting the Prowlers back up 3-2, just 38 seconds left in the period. To not be outdone, just 20 seconds later, with 18 seconds left to go in the period, the Black Bears get another game-tying goal from Blake Tosto, sending the two teams into the second intermission tied at 3 goals apiece. And basically, they went back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth from the first period to the end of the second period. Now, in the third period, Austin Thompson scored his second goal of the game, I believe his 6th of the season, giving the Black Bears a 4-3 lead with 5:08 left to go in regulation on the power play. After a defensive breakdown by the Black Bears, Dan Sherrard scored his second goal of the game in the 4th for the Prowlers, and the game-tying goal at 1:59 left to go in the third period. That put us into overtime. I think there was a little bit of like a letdown when that goal happened. It was another defensive breakdown. This has become a semi-common theme for the Black Bears with a few of these defensive breakdowns that have led to goals. Okay? It's okay to have a defensive breakdown. It's going to happen. Every single team is going to have some defensive breakdowns. when it leads to goals, that's where it's not necessarily something that you want to see a trend. And we've seen a small trend in the first 6 games with the Black Bears in defensive breakdowns. It's just the way it is right now. They'll work on it. They'll get it fixed. Just like the night before, on Friday night, now on Saturday night here at the Visions Veterans Memorial Arena, the Black Bears were not set to go to a shootout to decide this game. And they got the game-winning overtime goal from Kyle Stefan with just 2 minutes into the OT period to seal a 5-4 win. This was a very chippy game. Very chippy first period as well, with the Prowlers trying to keep a physical game, thinking they could keep the Black Bears off of their technical game. The Prowlers stayed on a 5-on-3 man advantage after Alex Johnson's goal because the first penalty was the Cameron Clark first penalty with 8 seconds left in it, meaning no one came out of the box after the goal. So it clears off that first penalty, but he was still in there for another 2 minutes for the other side of the penalty. The second period bench minor abuse officials served by Gavin Yates was assessed to head coach Brant Sherwood, which led to a power play goal for the Prowlers. I do have a concern for the Black Bears. The Black Bears penalty kill needs to improve. It looks like teams can score on the power play against the Black Bears. That's 4 power play goals this weekend just alone after that power play goal. And it is something that did not happen that often last season. So this is something that I think Coach Sherwood, another thing that they need to look at. Special teams right now, yes, they are scoring some power play goals. They have scored a shorthanded goal this season, but they are also giving up shorthanded goals, and they are giving up power play goals. In the second period, the Black Bears and the Prowlers combined for 13 penalties for 34 minutes, which I think is the game plan for the Prowlers. I think they really wanted to bring that physicality to the Prowlers, or the Prowlers wanted to bring that to the Black Bears, and it really kept them in this game. I truly believe that the way the Prowlers played, the physical game, the chippy game, getting really gritty, that's what helped them. The Prowlers have done a great job disrupting the Black Bears standard type of play, something that teams normally try to do but cannot. But they were successful in this game, getting the Black Bears off of their game, putting pucks on sticks on pucks. I do apologize. My thought process, having this head cold, is really driving me bonkers. But putting sticks on pucks the way they did was very effective, okay, against the Black Bears. A less eventful period in the third period with the two teams only having a pair of penalties for the Prowlers. Black Bears stayed out of the box. Black Bears should have won this game in regulation. The Prowlers' fourth goal was another defensive breakdown. We already talked about that. Black Bears went to the OT for the second night in a row. The pass from Jesse Anderson to Kyle Stefan was amazing, and the shot by Kyle Stefan was just, I'm not surprised it was Kyle Stefan who got the OT game winner. He's been very good this season. And again, this is another clutch goal coming from a player that I think is going to be huge for the Binghamton Black Bears going forward. Okay. Why are these two OT winners important? I think this is the most important part of this podcast. I hope everybody listens to. This is the most important part. I think we will look back at these two games, and they will matter, not just for 2 extra points or the 2 wins, but these are the character wins that form a winning team. Coach Sherwood and I talked about this last season about character wins and going through adversity. Not every game is going to be a 6-1 victory or a 5-0 victory like last Saturday. It's not going to be like that all the time. It's not going to be easy. Even when it's hard and easy, it's not going to be like that. You're going to go through adversity. These are the types of games that are going to build the confidence that we can win in any situation. Overcoming adversity builds character, And these 2 overtime wins are a part of that type of character building. That's why this is so important. This also extended the winning streak of the Black Bears to 4 wins in a row, and at the end of the weekend, the biggest winning streak of the season for any FPHL team. So think about that for a second, guys. The Black Bears, even with 2 overtime wins, and we could talk about some of the struggles, right? You know, the penalty kill, the maybe the power plays not clicking the way they wanted to, the shorthanded chances. But what it really comes down to is the Black Bears found a way to win. And that's what we need to come out of this weekend realizing. It's not about the 2 extra points. It's not even really about the 2 extra wins, which I know is still going to help them in the long run. It's how they battled through those 2 games. How importantly, they lost Dan Stone. He didn't return for the second game. He wasn't playing in Saturday's game. He got injured. They still came back and won. They found a way. That's what's important here. That's what it really has to come down to, looking at those positives more so than anything else. So I think we'll come back and we'll look at those two overtime wins and go, hey, that was important because it helps build the character of the team. Because Cam Clark got the game winner. Kyle Steffen, who wasn't with the team all last year, he gets the game winner. You're building character guys who weren't there in November of last year or October of last year. They are now helping to create a winning atmosphere of, at any given time, when we're down and out, we can come back and win. That's the important part of this. That's the reason why I'm still recording this podcast, even though my voice isn't the greatest, and I still got the sniffles, and I've had to edit out a couple coughs. This is important here. And I hope that's what Coach Sherwood goes into Tuesday's practice with, or his Saturday comments after the game, that they won 2 games in overtime, came back, fought through adversity, injuries, all those kind of things, came back and won. Okay, roster updates before I end this and give my voice a rest. The Black Bears, over the last couple of days, have made a few decisions on their roster. First, as expected, Dan Stone was placed on the 15-day IR rehab list. As most know, he was seen limping during Friday's game in Danbury. This is likely a lower body injury. We can guess and assume, but we're not going to do that. We'll just go with LBI. With that being said, Scott Ramakers has come off the 15-day IR list and should be available for this upcoming weekend's games. Now, it still puts them with only 5 natural defensemen. I think if Don Oliveri comes back, we'll see him slot into the D position. If not, maybe Emery Emerson will play another couple games at defense. Each team is allowed 14 of the 4-game PTOs. The Black Bears used 2 of them on Christopher Mott and Emerson Emery after the first weekend of the season, and have decided to use 2 more on the same 2 players again. Mott has played the third-line center mostly and has been seen taking faceoffs. Emery slotted in at D on Friday's game when Stone didn't return to the game. Like last season, head coach Brent Sherwood finds players who can do more than just what they're labeled as, and is a big part of why they won the championship last season. What do I mean by that? Jesse Anderson, naturally a forward, played defense all last year. Don Oliveri, normally a defenseman, played forward last year, okay? And he can get guys to slot into places that he needs, which I think is very important, and he does a really good job at that. Okay, so let's look at the standings. The Binghamton Black Bears are sitting in first right now in the Empire Division with 13 points. Now, Watertown also has 13 points, but Binghamton, if you add up all of their wins right now, they have 5 wins. They're 5-1. They've won 4 in a row. The Watertown Wolves are technically 4-1-1 with 13 points. The Wolves have actually scored 1 more goal than the Binghamton Black Bears. They've both played 6 games. So right now they have the edge on goals scored, and they've given up 1 less goal as well. So the Watertown Wolves, I think, are legit. They're real. They're for real, people. I think we need to watch out for them. And I hope that they play a little bit more of a cleaner game, because I think those games are a lot of fun where you don't have a lot of the extra really bad stuff that we saw from Tate Leeson and from Dakota Seaman like we did last year. I hope these guys instead will play more of a clean game, and maybe we'll see Trevor Lord back with that team, and they'll just continue to do well. But Watertown's for real right now, and I think they're going to go neck and neck with the Binghamton Black Bears for a good portion of this season. Now, in third place in the division is the Danbury Hat. They've only played 4 games. Now, the rest of the teams, the rest of the way, have only played 4 games each, okay? So the Black Bears and the Watertown Wolves, they opened up the season against each other. They've played 6 games. Danbury is in third place right now with 7 points. They have 2 wins, 1 regulation loss, and 1 loss in overtime. They have 7 points, and they've scored 19 goals so far this season. The Motor City Rockers, they're in fourth place. They have 1 regulation win, 2 losses, and they have looks like a shootout win. So they have 2 wins on the season and 2 losses on the season. One of those wins, obviously, a shootout win. The Port Huron Prowlers, they don't have any wins at the moment. Well, they do actually have 1 win. I do apologize. They have 1 win in overtime, and they have actually 1 win in the shootout, 2 losses, and 1 overtime loss. The Danville, or the Dashers of Danville, whatever they're calling them, they have 1 win on the season and 3 losses, and the same thing with the Venom. They have 1 win and 3 losses for 3 points. So that is the standing so far for this season. We'll have a show coming up in just a couple more days. We'll preview the upcoming games for the Binghamton Black Bears, and hopefully we'll have a guest as well, as long as my voice will hold out. So let's get right into it. The Power Play Post Show is on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Cast, YouTube, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. Just search Power Play Post Show, on whichever platform you listen to your podcast, and please subscribe. Please join the Power Play Post Show Facebook group. Just go to Facebook and search for Power Play Post Show, and please join. Check out binghamtonhockey.net for all your Binghamton hockey information and curiosity. And thank you to Rob Lapoulis, our MC, John Petitucci, our musical director, as well as Binghamton Black Bears rookie defenseman Nicolas Poirier for answering 6 more questions. I am Bob Howard. Thank you very much for listening. Oh, one last thing. Obviously, Tyson Kirkby and Gavin Yates broke the 100 assists in Black Bears franchise history. So that's pretty cool. Congratulations to both Tyson and Gavin for getting across the 99 plateau onto the 100. I believe Tyson has 102 at the moment, and Gavin has 100 assists on the season. Congratulations to both of those guys. And again, I'll talk to you guys again on Thursday as we preview the upcoming games for the Binghamton Black Bears, and hope to have another great interview with another Black Bear. So thank you very much for listening to this edition of the Power Play Post Show, and hopefully my voice will be a little bit better the next time you hear me. And thank you for listening to the Power Play Post Show.
Thanks for listening to this edition of the Power Play Post Show. Be sure to tune in next week to the Box Studios Radio Network for all the latest Black Bears news and interviews from around minor league hockey. The Power Play Post Show would like to thank John Patitucci for all the music you hear on the show. You've been listening to the Power Play Post Show.